In this video, I would be helping a patient who recently had a right anterior lateral hip replacement, and the ADL we will be working on is putting a shoe on. And so to review, I would tell them the precautions, which are no extension of the hip. So this way. No outward turning of the toe, and also no crossing of the legs. So for putting on a shoe, adaptive devices I could offer depending on their ability to do this based on various factors. I could offer a reacher to grab their shoe and put on their foot if they cannot reach down that low. However, it doesn't break precautions in this case to reach down to your foot and put your shoe on if you're able to. And the other thing I could offer would be a long-handled shoe horn, if that were also helpful. And then, because it is the summer right now, I would recommend a shoe like this just because it's easier to put on. And they can just kind of slip their foot right in, because the only thing I would worry about with putting a shoe on in this scenario is that they might lift their leg up like this to put on their shoe, which is breaking precautions because now their hip is and their toe is turned outward. So you wouldn't want someone bringing their leg up like that on top of their other leg if they have had an anterior lateral hip replacement. And in terms of my body mechanics, while a person is performing putting on a shoe with an anterior lateral hip replacement, depending on their level of assist, I might have one hand towards like the center of their back, and I might have another hand on the front, just so that if they're leaning or moving in a certain way, even though they're sitting, that they would maintain their balance depending on their level of assist. But if the person appears to not really have any issues with bending, maintaining balance, say it's a younger person and they're healing really well, there's a chance I could just be, kind of being a stand-up guard contact. Okay, so for this scenario, I would be helping someone with a right posterior approach hip replacement, from getting up in bed to the edge of their bed, and then from sit to stand, so we could go work on some other ADLs. So for the precautions for a posterior hip replacement, you don't want any flexion of the hip joint past 90 degrees. So that means when you're standing, no lifting or putting that foot forward first, and it also means that while you're sitting, there's no bending of the trunk in this direction. And for this one, you also do not want to cross the legs, and you do not want an inward rotation of the toe. So to instruct someone to get out of bed, I would give them the direction to slowly prop themselves up on their elbows. And once they're up on their elbows, I would check in about pain and dizziness. And then I would say slowly, work your right and your left foot really slowly to the edge of the bed, without bending your trunk while you're doing it, and make sure to be rotating your trunk at the same time that your legs are coming to the edge of the bed. And then once they are there and their legs are coming over, I would see if that leg needed any support. The hip that just had surgery, if that leg needs any support coming off the bed, if that feels painful at all. And then once their legs are out fully in front, I would instruct them to start to sit up slowly. And again, I'd check in about dizziness and pain at that point. And then depending on their level of assist, I would get in very closely for min assist, maybe just have one hand on the back of the gait belt and one hand on the front. And we would make them scoot to the edge, count to 3, and stand up while still maintaining the precaution of their surgical side to have their leg out in front while they're standing up and not to bend it. and kind of pull them straight up. And similar with moderate assist, I'd have my hands on, I'd be very close, I would be low to the ground, and we would count together and get up. And for the last video, I will be helping someone with a total knee replacement on the left leg sit down and stand up from the toilet. And basically with a total knee replacement, there are no precautions, and movement is encouraged as soon as the person feels the pain is low enough that they can move it. So it's really important to encourage moving, not sitting in one position for too long. And it's also important to check in about pain. And the only real big thing you want to caution people on is kind of pivoting really quickly or turning really quickly and rotating that knee too extremely that it will cause pain and could potentially damage some of the surgical site. So for this, I would just kind of be in close proximity. I don't think I would have my hands on them, but I might be contact guard if this was the first time they were trying this, just in case there's a lot of pain and maybe they fall back to try to sit down when they're getting back up. So I'd just be standing about here. I would just be checking in about pain level, and I would be making sure that, they weren't sitting too long, maybe on the toilet, and that I would encourage them to, stand back up afterward, walk for a little bit, and make sure that that knee is getting plenty of mobility.